Hi guys, the intention of this video is to cover the equipment allocation panel, a bit of how it works and I guess kind of the underlying concept of how it works. The reason I say that is the equipment allocation panel works fundamentally a lot like the trucks and loaders panel in that it operates on the concept of primary and secondary equipment. So if we just look at the trucks and loaders panel, because this is the thing that most people are familiar with, right? The loader is the primary equipment, the truck is the secondary equipment. The truck inherits most of its attributes from the loader, so the location, the material, etc. The equipment allocation panel works a lot like that, except it's not necessarily bound to loaders and trucks. It can be set up using any types of equipment, and then you can effectively define them as the primary equipment in the relationship or the secondary equipment. The reason we do that is because quite often you'll find yourself with, two sets of equipment, loaders and trucks being a great example, where they're not working independently, right? They work together throughout the duration of the shift, right? They're interacting heavily. We have a common example that we use, which is the integrated tool carrier and the relationship that has with attachments, but it's not necessarily bound to that. I mean, you can run this with shotcrete or ITs or trucks or loaders or whatever, as long as the two pieces of equipment or the sets of equipment have some kind of relationship that you want to establish. So I have a basic equipment allocation panel set up here just with two ITs. I have three unallocated pieces of secondary equipment, and these are my attachments, which I've just labeled attachment 1, attachment 2, attachment 3. You could name these anything, right? And these could be representative of any attachments that are going on your ITs. So if IT1 is carrying around the following attachments, I just put them onto this section here, where they're not in use, but they are with the IT. So he's not actively using them. So if someone else needs to come and grab these and you're in the control room, you can see, look, yeah, IT1 has attachment 3, but he's not using it, right? It's not being used right now. Come on, IT2, you can come down and grab it and then potentially use it. So now I'm showing that IT2 is using attachment 3, but he's also carrying attachment 2. IT1 is not using anything. He's carrying attachment 1. That's the general idea of the panel. ITs and attachments is a good example, but you have other things as well. In terms of configuration, it's pretty straightforward. We have the panel configuration option, the same as always, this little option up here. We can rename the panel. We then select the locations that are relevant. So if you only wanted to see the equipment at a given location grouping or a given individual set of locations, you could use that. I think all locations in most contexts is probably a good idea, unless you have very specific mine areas or something. Then it asks you to define the primary equipment group. This is the equipment group that will come up the top here where the ITs are. So right now I have that set to ITs, but as I said, this can be anything. And we have our secondary equipment group, which is right now attachments, but of course can be anything. Hit next. We have our role selection, which is just set to operator, which is quite standard. And that's it. That's the panel configuration, and that's kind of what you can do with it. It's just a great way of tracking the relationship between two pieces of equipment or sets of equipment that are working together. Thanks.